Hope you guys are doing well. So, yeah, we are going to start with imported fonts. Like when we import a font in our, this will be a very normal thing that we would be doing. Just let me check. Yeah, stream is up and running. So importing fonts, right? Uh, so what if, like the default fonts are not used, right? So in order to work for important fonts, we have to add a font file art in our project and be sure that we have the font file target your project. Then you need to add the font file name to the info playlist under fonts provided by the application. So now there are few steps that we need to do. So first is basically we need to add our font in the font file. So add our the next thing that we need to do is we need the file target our project. So and then the next thing that we need to do is basically then we need to add the font file name to the info p list. So then we need to add the font file name under info dot p list. So and then so yeah, once you have done this, then we'll be able to import a font, right, and use it in our project. Custom okay, let's see little. Oh, we didn't see scale metric, right? Oh yeah. Now we can do so to capitalize. This is again a modifier specific to text, right? So you can use upper or lowercase, uppercase, and then to lowercase. So we both have that. So to capitalize, you can do lowercase. No, yeah, lowercase. So this is it's lowercase small caps, and then this is uppercase. You have a few different options when it comes to capitalizing letters. I'm gonna do lowercase. Yeah, this is lowercase small caps, uppercase small caps, and then we have one more. Basically, that is uh, small caps. So you can do title. That's okay. That's another way of doing that. Now tracking. Tracking is used to increase or decrease the space uniformly between all letters. Oh, so this is the spacing between the letters. Okay. So tracking is when we are dealing with tracking, we are referring to this is space in between letters. Okay. Now showing. So now let's go to date time. So to add a okay. The custom font size and relative. Now you can control how custom or important fonts scale by using relative to parameter. There is something called as so in custom font size. So when we are doing our import, so in our custom fonts, we can, there is a way to control using, there is a way to control fonts using relative to parameter in your initializer, right? So relative to, so in the initializer you can have this relative to parameter. Now showing dates, the text view knows how to display dates and date ranges for the local. Oh, so you can add in a timer as well. It will start counting. Oh, this is nice. I don't know where we will be using this, but yeah, this is done. Yeah, this is very important. So what happens is when we are going to add an image in a text, this is, oh, so this is basically like adding text, and then inside this text you add an image, right? For example, you add in a logo, so you just add in inside the text view. You can add everything inside the text view. The markdown. Okay, timer. So let's deal with how we can add a timer, right? So inside the text, as a text view, you can add an timer as well. So this is my text view. So inside this, you can add in a timer. So for example, you can. So this is for example. Okay, so this is all going in the text view itself. So in the text view, there are a number of things that can be passed. So for example, here you can give it like current date. Then you can do show hours, future, all that can come in that inside the text view itself. The timer function not only formats the date but actively counts up or down to. So basically, so this is an iOS 18. This is the latest thing that has come in iOS 18. Inside the text view as well, we can do the timer count. Then you can have the stopwatch format. You can do date, like for example, offset. You can reference like 20 minutes ago, but 30 minutes ago. Okay. Now now you can use the scaled metric property wrapper to adjust some property in relation to the dynamic typing. Oh, for example, uh, so this is what he's trying to say is when you are going to zoom in, I guess. Is that? Yeah, I guess it's that. Okay, so there is a wrapper as well. Okay, what is there is something called as dynamic type. Let me check. Oh, so now this is something peculiar, right? So there is something called as dynamic type setting. So what if the user adjusts the fonts using the settings app, right? So it makes, so what we can do is yeah, for example, in our inside the phone in the settings we have kept a specific font size. So this is the phone, right? And then inside we go to the settings app, and then we can apply certain settings on our text, the way we want to see our apps, their size, right? So what so what the scale property wrapper is going to do is, now it is going to respect that dynamic type property and scale the thing, I guess. It will automatically scale a numeric value for spacing or size according to the, okay, so this is my at the rate scaled metric, right? So what this is going to do is, now it is going to automatically it scales, so it scales uh, numeric value according to the dynamic type setting. So dynamic type settings is basically the settings that the user has implemented or added in the settings app. So you can scale it. Oh. Now there is, so inside that you have first, yeah, this is what scale metric does. Now when we do relative to scale a value more, now this takes in a parameter called as relative to, right? So relative to, so what does that indicate? Now, when using the relative to parameter references a reference style that determines how your our value should scale related to the user's dynamic settings. Also, basically, this is like with respect to mentioning our own. So the relative to parameter is like specifies a reference. So basically, it indicates how our value should scale. So how our value should scale relative to the user's dynamic type. So images was done. So mark down, you can mark down formatting inside or, oh, Yeah, we saw what dynamic type is, right? For example, when you are increasing the size, so with respect to that, set a range of your type sizes, your text can change within. So text selects to this is again some modifier text selection and then enabled. Like if you can, and then you need to pass in whether it is enabled or disabled, right? Okay, now this is formatting currency, right? Um, so in the text view itself, you can add that. Like no need of typing it. So formatting currencies. This is what. So in the text view itself, you can do the format. For example, you can do currency, then GBP, or like example would be this is inside the text too, right? So there is something called as format, and then you add in GBP or what, whichever type of currency you want to add in. So even date can be formatted. For example, time. This is all inside the text. Remember, hertz, gigahertz. You can add in a lot of things. For example, at times you need to do some conversions, right? So you can do that as well. Okay, yeah, so that's all for text. So we saw text, we saw frame modifiers, then we saw padding modifier. We also saw an alignment, right? How text can be aligned. We saw what's baseline was. And we saw image as well. What does scale to fit? Why do we need to redo that resizable? And then scale to fit and then scale to fill. We saw both of them. Um, I guess yeah, that is all for this session. I hope you guys liked it. I'll see you guys in the next one. So we'll start another project and we'll start another with the app itself. But then we'll try to build in this. We'll see a different types of a new type of view. For example, we'll so right now we only worked so layout views we only worked with which tag and h tag, right? So we can add scroll views and a lot of that. So we'll see that. And we also saw ignore safe area, right? So there are certain areas that we can ignore. Yeah, that is okay. So I guess that is all for this session. I hope we also saw okay. The only thing that we left is button, right? But we know how button works, so it's not difficult. Yeah, it's like we know the button view, right? So we have already done. So we can add in the border. We also saw foreground style and foreground color. Then we saw background color. What's the difference? So you can add in borders. You can work with SF images and lots of things. Oh, there is something. Style of the button can also be changed. So I guess that is all for this session. I hope you guys liked it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Till that time, take care. Bye bye. Hello everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. So like we did study um, like different types of. We made a weather UI, right? I mean weather app UI. So in that we added some modifiers and we use some initializers as well. So let's see a little bit about them so that let's keep on revising. So the first thing that we did was basically we added a v stack, right? So whenever you add a v stack, what happens is um so this is more a declarative layout as compared to our CSS, right? So CSS is not that declarative. It is little bit has its own use case as well, right? So but then whenever you are dealing with mobile UIs, it has to be exactly, the UI will be looking exactly as you have declared it. So we did a v stack, right? So whenever you do a v stack, by default what will happen is elements will get start stacking from the center, and elements will be stacked in a vertical order, right? So we basically stands for vertical stacking. mm. The elements, yeah, like that is how by default behavior is. So first we will be placing element here. You can, the moment you start building more elements, this default order gets disturbed. Like this is when when you only have a single edge stack. So the elements are placed in this rectangular format. So this is nothing but V stack, right? So this is vertical stacking. Now so the spacing between this is kind of when you pass an initializer called as spacing. So this is basically controlling the spacing between the elements. So this is between element spacing. Then the next thing that we have is basically an edge stack, right? So here basically elements are going to be stacked horizontally, right? So again we'll start at the center of the, wait, just let me something, yeah. So now we'll be doing horizontal spacing, right? So we'll be doing an art stack. So your elements will be placed horizontally. Again, so if you want to control the spacing in between these items, you there is like an initializer. So we pass in the initializer itself. Now you can align the items as well. So inside the v stack, like, so basically the way so if this is the container, right? So now this has two things. This container has this is my top, right? And then this is the leading, and then you have trailing, which is, I guess, this is the down. So you have leading edge, trailing edge. Um, I guess this is going to be my leading edge, and then this is going to be my trailing edge. So if I want elements to be aligned to this edge, so then I this is my leading, right? And so this is going to be leading. So if you want elements to be aligned to this edge, this is the trailing one. And this is same in case of H stack and V stack, right? Now lazy V stack is something that will not load immediately. Instead, you are going to delay the loading. Basically, yeah. So this is the lazy V stack will work with scrolling, right? So if this is the V stack, and if you want to have a scrolling feature here, what happens is by default V stack will load everything on the screen. So by default everything will be loaded on the screen. But then what we stack lazy implementation, what it does is lazy v stack or h stack, what it does is it will display only at that much elements that are on the screen, right? So yeah, so for example, like if this is overboarding the screen, then this will be removed from the screen, right? So now if this would be normal v stack, even this element will be loaded, right? If it was a normal h stack or v stack. But now lazy with stack, what it does is, now since this is element is out of the screen, right? So this screen is coming out of the screen. Um, so so this will only load when you scroll it, and then there is so only load when there is space available on the screen, right? So only do that loading if there is a space available. If there is no space, then you won't be able to load. So if screen has no space, then new element will not load in. Then yeah, so similarly to lazy h stack, we have lazy which stack as well. Same thing, nothing significant. Alignment, as I said, since it's like it's same. Um, okay, so now there is one thing inside V stack, right? So like, what if you want this to be fixed over here? This is like a scroll view, and then inside that I have two tabs over here, one on the top. So yeah, what if we want to this to be pinned, right? Like we want these two views to be pinned to the bar. So and here you will have the scrolling, right? So that is one additional feature that you can do. You can do something called as pinned view. So you can add in a pinned view here. Okay, then similarly is the edge tag, right? So okay, now the alignment will change if based on what stack you are using, right? The why? Because see, if this is an edge tag, then the alignment will be this is an edge tag, right? So it will be leading and trailing. So this is a V stack, right? This will be leading and trailing alignment. Now when you have a so this is for V stack. When you do an edge tag, this is my edge tag, right? So now here it will be top and bottom. So this is going to be my top and then bottom, because elements are fixed along this, right? So the only thing you can do is you can move them up or down. So your elements are fixed along this, right? The only possible, so like you cannot move them along top. You can either move them towards leading or towards trailing. And there is something called as there is one more initializer inside edge stack. So this is just for elements inside, right? It's like for views inside the view, inside the edge stack or edge stack. There is something called as alignment initializer. So basically, this is going to control the text inside. Yeah, basically we were yeah. So we already studied the alignment, right? Um, Whenever you're dealing with text, right, there is something called as now. This is for views. So this alignment is so this alignment is for views, like aligning the top. So this is for aligning that, right? And what if you have text? Like what if we only have So there are three rules, right? If there is a text, okay. mm, okay. So if we say this is the text, right? So suppose if this is uh, suppose this is, and this line is the baseline, and this is the top. And suppose if I have something that is going down, so this is my bottom, I guess. And this, okay, there are certain, so the spacing between them is text gap, right? This is gap. This is my descender. Now how much this is curved, that is going to be sans serif or whatever. So if it's uh so if you have multiple lines, then you're going to have multiple baselines, right? So actually this is okay, this is not, we'll see that in the text thing. So we haven't added scroll view yet. Yeah, we added a depth stack, right? We'll see this thing later on when we see text. So then we had something called as Z. We also used a Z stack, right? So if you consider these three axes, this is the, this is X, This is y, and then this is z. So this is x, this is y, this is z. But then if it's the screen, so when it comes into the screen, it becomes 3D, right? So z is the axis going inside, and the axis coming outside. So this is x and y. Z is going to be the axis going inside, coming outside. This is going to be x. This is going to be y. Uh, this is a modifier called as frame, right? You will see that. So ignore safe area is basically to ignore the edges. Oh, so now if you go in z axis, right? So the free axis that we have is y and x. So the alignment can be done along both, because the element can move freely over here, right? Y z is fixed, so you can move it along both too. There is one more view called as grid. We haven't seen that, but that's okay. Oh, we use spacer, right? So what spacer does is we did use, so basically it's going to add in spaces, right? It adds an empty view. Basically it's going to push. Okay, now spacer kind of works differently when you're working with, one is you can work with v stack, and then you can work with h stack, right? So in both of them spacer will work differently. So remember in h stack we said elements are uh, along this direction, right? So the only movement they can make is up and down. So then spacer can move, but in this is for h stack, right? If you come to v stack, so in v stack, oh this is, yeah, okay. So in v stack you have elements placed here, right? So the spacer will be moving here and left and right. This is when you are in v stack. Basically it's going to push away horizontal spacing or vertical spacing depending upon which axis is free. So spacer are basically like views, right? These are basically adding an empty view, so you can add in frames, give them a color. So we didn't see, and what else we did we use? Okay, we use button. Okay, yeah, we saw h stack. Okay, we did use the. Okay, let's go to image. So if I go to image, let's. Okay, where is the index? We'll see image, text, and frame, and we'll see all the properties that we can apply on that. So that, yeah, yeah, that's all for this video. I'll add in about image and text in the next one. Like, it'll be like a continuous in this only.